I have the pleasure to introduce the next conversationist on stage. She will be with us for 5 minutes. Her name is Sandra Uwiringiyimana. She is the co-founder of the Jimbere Fund, and she is also the author of a book called How Dare the Sun Rise. I hope I got that correct. Give her an applause. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's so good to be here, and thank you so much for having me again at another conference. If you've had a chance to meet me, you know that I'm a very outgoing, bubbly, most of the time cheerful person. And many people who also know my story often ask me, how do you do that? And I didn't know the answer to that for a long time, and I finally figured it out. It was the kindness of people who showed up to me when I thought that the world was a dark and miserable place to be. And when WPL reached out to me to talk about the power of kindness, I started to think about what am I going to say? And the first person that came to my mind was my mother. My mother was the first person to teach me about kindness. When I was younger, I guess we would be considered poor by Western standards. I was born and raised in the Democratic Republic of Congo. But to me, I really never thought I was a poor person. I grew up thinking I had everything that I needed. And I owe most of that to my mother. She made sure that even when we lacked, I understood that it wasn't permanent and that I could always get out of it. My mother also made sure I understood that I had to treat everyone with kindness and love, because if I look down on someone today, tomorrow I could be in their situation. And that was the person that really started to shape who I would become. The second person that taught me the power of kindness was a stranger. I was 10 years old, sorry. I was 10 years old, and it was a time where we were escaping my country. Those of you who know the history of Congo know that it's been in turmoil for a very long time. And for many of us, fleeing is very normal. Like, we grow up fleeing from place to place, depending on the conflict. So I was very used to that. The last time I fled Congo, my family was attacked and ambushed, and honestly, we had no idea how we were going to get out of there. A stranger showed up and basically risked his life to save us and to drive us out of there. What had happened was that our driver basically took the keys, and left us out there to die. And we had no idea how we were going to get out of there. And somebody came out of nowhere, went to find the keys, and drove us out of there. I don't even know that man's name, neither do my parents. But every time I think about who I am now, I think of him. What followed that event was even a more devastating event. We were forced into a refugee camp in 2004, and it was attacked, and we lost many people, 166. I lost my sister. After that event, I was really supposed to be very bitter, very angry, and I was for a long time. But again, I told you, there were angels all over, like people who exercised kindness and love when they didn't have to, that restored my faith in humans. That man and my mother were the first two people. The third person was a young girl that I met in Rochester, New York, after my family had been resettled. After my family was resettled in Rochester, New York, I was very angry, very upset at everyone. I, believe it or not, did not like living in America, despite what you might think. I wanted very much to be at home, and I really did not want to be there, and every day was a struggle to get up and to go to school. and I did not have many friends. This girl befriended me and didn't really ask me any questions. I didn't speak much English, but she didn't care. She would invite me to everything, even though I would say not a word. And even though it's probably small to her and she probably doesn't think of it, but it really transformed my life. Suddenly, I went from hating living in America and hating my life there and forming relationships. And those relationships turned into who I am today. I would never have gotten up and spoken in front of people to share my story if Mabel hadn't included me and hadn't invited me into her home and made me feel like I was important too and what I had to say mattered, even if I didn't understand English. I share these stories because I believe that our leaders should exercise more kindness and love in lawmaking. It does not make you a weak leader. In fact, it makes you a strong one when you recognize that what makes us human is also important when we think about making the world a better place. We cannot just ignore the values that make our society stronger for the sake of looking more powerful or seeming more powerful. And I think sometimes in politics, if you show any type of like compassion, kindness, and love, you're seen as soft or weak or not political enough. But I think those are the values that actually make our laws and our societies stronger. I implore all of you to apply kindness to your everyday life. Kindness transforms not just people's lives, but entire communities. It's very hard to hate when there's kindness around you. And I think in today's world, we can use kindness and love more than anything. As you look around the world, hatred is truly destroying a lot of our communities. And if we can learn to hate, we can also learn to love. We can also learn to be kind. So I would like to invite all of you to be kind and lead by example, because that truly changes lives. Thank you.